Welcome to the Ingram Micro Cloud Monthly Podcast. We are all Microsoft SureStep BDMs working across the Microsoft Cloud stack. My name is Martyn Hall, and I will allow my colleagues to introduce themselves now.
Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Mike Markey, one of the business development managers on the SureStep program aligned to Modern Workplace.
My name is Nicola Miller, and I'm also the business development manager. Easy for you to say, or for me to say, even on Modern Workplace too.
Hi everyone, I'm John Papadakis. I'm the Azure Business Development Manager for Ingram Micro.
Cool. Nicola, do you want to tell us what SureStep is?
Sure. So SureStep is a global program from Microsoft, and it consists of the four of us that you see today. So John in Azure, Martyn in Dynamics, and myself and Mike that work in Modern Workplace. And we are on behalf of Ingram Micro. And essentially our role is to enable partners by supporting them through the Microsoft journey. And we really kind of act in a parachute motion. So we're here to support you with anything in terms of training needs, enablement, and also really that piece about selling more and certainly supporting you with all the changes that are coming via Microsoft, which is probably more apparent than ever at the moment.
Oh, yes. And this month, we're now into October. It's been going a while, but this month we are going to cover off community calls, as always. We're also going to cover off incentive updates. I put a bit in here to say, what's MCI? Because that's new and a lot of people aren't familiar with that. And some partner center updates. So, first up, shall we cover incentives?
Which program do we want to talk about? Because I know there's a lot of incentive updates that have just kind of hit us these past few weeks.
So how about we talk MCI first off, because that's kind of the new piece that people will be unfamiliar with.
Yep.
MCI, for people who aren't aware, we love throwing acronyms around. That's Microsoft Commerce Incentive. So that's something that's going to be new. It is running from October 1st, and they've labeled it until September 30th, 2022. The likelihood is it will refresh because that's just the incentive year, how it runs. So at the end of that program, they'll probably announce it for another 12 months, or who knows, they might change it. How does it differ? Very good question. They are trying to simplify the way incentives work. For the majority of partners we talk to, the incentives are going to be on what they'd consider a breadth motion incentive. And for indirect resellers, the core incentive remains pretty much the same against CSP, and we'll come back to the CSP incentives in a moment. For Azure, the core incentive is 4%, with reserved instances at 10%. If you're looking at Microsoft 365, you've got the core incentive at 5%. There's the Global Strategic Product Accelerator, Tier 1, at 5%. I love that because it's such a mouthful. You also have the Global Calling and Conference PSTN Accelerator. That's there at 20%. And then for Dynamics, you've got the core incentive at 5%, Global Strategic Product Accelerator Tier 1 at 5%, and a Global Strategic Product Accelerator Tier 2 at 10%.
So is this stackable? Is this on top?
Yes, so the accelerators are on top, so you can stack those. The core incentives are sort of the base one you're working to.
What I do really like about that is that the rates are actually higher than the previous program within CSP. So it kind of shows the investment from Microsoft's point of view in that kind of, the indirect space. Because we see a lot more partners these days coming from the direct model, I think, to indirect,
Yep.
So one thing you'll notice when you do come to MCI, it is a new incentive program, you will have to enroll for it. Please do enroll for it, because if you don't get any money for it, and it's not like you'll be automatically rolled over from old incentive plans. So that's kind of key on that. You're going to see different measurements inside the partner center for incentives here. You'll get engagements listed, and they're essentially the unique opportunity, the unique earning opportunity partners have, and there's certain requirements to earn different incentives there with those engagements. I sound really woolly explaining that. I'm sure when it comes to life and people are actually doing this, it'll start to become more familiar and people will be able to see it in Partner Center. Mike, did you want to cover off what's changed within CSP Indirect?
Yep, absolutely. So the program term from this, it rolled over from 30th of September. Microsoft have committed another year on these incentive rates. So October 1st it starts till September 30th, 2022. So taking us into next year. Now I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago there that the rates are actually higher in the MCI within CSP. Some of those rates, so you've got the likes of the core incentives. So Azure build revenue is at 4%, the modern work and security build revenue at 4%, the Dynamics or business applications build revenue is at 4.75%. With regards to customer add accelerators, if you add anyone net new into the Microsoft sphere, you're looking at a 10% increase, depending on a $250 threshold on modern work and security. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Martyn, but I think I've got this one right. So if a customer bills $1,000 within that first 12-month period, then Microsoft annualize that contract value, and you as the partner receive 20% of that revenue. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And if you grow it within the 12 month as well, you get the growth annualized.
Wow. So some serious kind of moolah on the table for you there, really, isn't there? And then there's a couple of product strategic accelerators. So there's a 2-tier platform again. So the Microsoft 365 E3, E5, Business Premium and Dynamics Business Central is 5% rate. And then the Sales Pro and Power Apps is on that second tier, so it's a 10% rate. The Global PSTN Calling and Conferencing Accelerator is 20%. And the new line, which is being added in this time, is non-profit or TSI, Tech for Social Impact. The product accelerator there is 12%, which is really, really nice to see that the charity sector is kind of being recognised within that incentive space, I think, now.
Yeah.
The two main things that I would say have changed within these rates is that the co-op earnings that we saw previously, which was set at a $4,000 threshold before you had to start pushing buttons and telling Microsoft this is what you're going to be doing, that's now being raised up to 10K over that 6-month period. So it's I think for a lot of the medium-sized businesses, they should start to see just a bumper rebate payments after the 6-month period. And then to actually earn these incentives, there is now a trailing 12-month revenue which is required of $25,000. So on that, you're looking about £1,800 to £1,900 per month, roughly, before you can actually start earning on the incentives itself. That is the CSP incentives, pretty much.
So quite a few tweaks in there, really.
Yeah, I think so.
But in terms of rates, it sounds very similar to the MCI rates. I think the eligibility is pretty much identical.
Yeah.
But CSP has put in the trailing 12-month revenue requirement.
Yeah.
So CSP still has a co-op bucket, but that's been raised.
Yep, up to 10,000.
MCI doesn't have any co-op. That's full rebate.
Okay, that's really interesting then.
So just a little bit of compare and contrast for everyone listening. We've just run through both programs there, but it's interesting comparing them side by side. There's some really, really good similarities, but there are some distinct points that they're different on. Just to add for the MCI bit, we've talked about the licensing itself and how you're doing some incentive on the licensing. MCI is actually going to introduce incentives for delivering workshops as well. So if you go ahead and download the MCI guide, you can get that very easily. We'll drop the link on the bottom of our YouTube video. Within there, it says a lot of the workshops are coming soon. So it's kind of saying, look, if you are doing this as a business, keep on doing it because you can get paid some extra money for delivering those workshops. We just don't know what it's going to be like at the moment. But I think that's really cool that they're delivering not just on you putting these licenses in, but you're increasing adoption for things like hybrid working. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are your thoughts on them removing the co-op ability or capability of the incentive program? Do you think it's a positive or a negative?
I don't think there's an impact to it.
See, I do wonder to a certain point. I think it has its credence for being in there. However, I think a lot of it people lose it and forget about it because essentially, really twice a year you kind of need to look at it. Unless somebody's prompting you, we've had a bit of a crazy old time recently. So I think in terms of when it comes down to it, I think people tend to forget. I found near on £8,000 the other day for a customer or a partner, and they had no idea it was sitting there. And then they're like, "Oh, what do we spend it on?" So and certainly if you've got annuals, you're going to get paid those incentives at the point of when that annual goes through. So my bit would be just to implore you just to go and double check, see what you have got in the partner centre, because you've got to the end of the year essentially to spend it. So yeah, I would certainly be having a look at those that co-op bit. I think partners will actually enjoy the fact that they haven't got, it's one less thing to worry about, it's another layer that's taken off essentially. But in terms of how that does get spent, well, it's interesting. I mean, co-op really has only been in for 2 years now, and then it's sort of in and out. So it's quite an interesting measure from Microsoft's point of view in terms of they put something in, and now when they got the MCI, they actually want to take it out again. So actually, do they see it as successful? I'm not quite sure.
It's interesting because I think, based on what you said there, Nicola, I'm wondering if partners fall into two camps: the ones that kind of forget about co-op and the ones that just use it anyway. Yep. And the ones that use it anyway, the reason I said that it's probably not going to have an impact is the ones that use it anyway are probably going to use the rebate money towards all the things like marketing spend, lead generation, demo devices,
training as well. Training is such a big one, certainly when it comes down to competencies and stuff along those lines. It subsidizes that training element, but there's been some big partners with some big money sat in that co-op fund, and it's like actually trying to you're picking your brains in terms of actually how can you spend it within that time. So I find it a bit of an interesting one that we've added it and then taken it away in quite a relatively short term. But I do think that there's quite a lot that gets left in and people do forget about it. So I actually don't think, I think it's not a bad thing in some ways. And
I think if memory serves correct, the 2 years that they've had the co-op for, Microsoft actually rolled over the co-op into the next period anyway. And I think when you talk about, Martyn, two different types of partners, I think it's really, for me anyway, the big partners or the big fish and the little fish. The big fish have got that marketing department in-house who are looking for dedicated fund, and that pot is for them, and they get excited about it. Whereas the smaller fish, if you like, and I don't like using the word smaller fish, but it is the difference between the partners without marketing department. They're really kind of quite reliant on the rebate that comes through in some cases to just be more competitive in the market. And if they're losing out on additional fund, I think that has quite a big impact on them.
Well, I think I'm certainly going to be asking now going forward, probably around December time, to just get opinions from partners on what they think is going to change in their business if they don't have co-op going forward.
mean, it's not the fact that they're not going to have it. It's just that, does it go into the pot that kind of gets forgotten about? Does it kind of get swallowed up, as opposed to having that marketing, to make their budgets upon the co-op fund in terms of marketing? So in terms of that, it's they're not getting anything less. If anything, they'll be getting more money coming back to them.
I mean, they're not going to have it in a co-op. It's going to be in a rebate. Exactly.
So where does the rebate go, and how do they portion that out? It's kind of getting that side sorted out, I suppose. Depends where that pot goes. It could go into the social fund,
the Florida fund.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Shall we just touch on Partner Center then at the same time while we're here?
Yeah.
So I spotted this last week sometime. Partner Center.
Quiet.
I'm very quiet.
No, it's been very quiet with the whole Partner Center bit. So what you recognised?
Yeah, and you go into it, and it's now got workspaces, which I felt has just been dropped on us. I'm going to avoid the elephant in the room of what's going on at the moment with NC. We'll park that. That's not for us to talk about today, because we've had how many webinars on it? But Workspace has kind of been slipped in under the radar on Partner Center. I'm curious what you guys are thinking about those changes.
As I said, it's been slipped in, really, hasn't it? No one's really made anything about it. I think there's been, even if there was, I think there's been so many announcements from Microsoft and changes and shifting sands, essentially. I don't know if it's just come by the wayside and we've missed it, but I've looked at it. I'm going to certainly be having a look to see if there's anything more around it, because I mean, it looks nice in terms of functionality. It looks very, it looks less sort of antiquated maybe than what the previous Microsoft Partner Center looked like. But yeah, it looks good. It's just something new to learn, isn't it, essentially? So I think people struggle with the Partner Center anyway. I think the Partner Center sometimes can be the bane of partners' lives. And, the fact that they don't tend to go in it as much because they find it quite difficult to navigate. Hopefully that will eradicate those pain points of partners, essentially.
So I only found out about Workspaces yesterday, purely on a whim. Supported a partner, and he kept saying, it keeps going to Workspaces, and I originally thought it was an API integration. I didn't realize at the time that it was actually an update that was coming into Partner Center. But I think, like you say, Nicola, with us being kind of experts helping partners guide around, it's another thing for both of us parties to learn. It's I think let's watch this space, because when it goes general availability, there's probably going to be an announcement around it. It's very interesting. It looks nice.
There's a lot of new stuff coming on. I mean, I looked at the solutions provider tool, and there's another new solutions provider tool. So this is where you can build your business profile within the Partner Center. And if you are looking for a partner within your area, so you could look at competencies, and this is free to all partners to utilize, as long as you've got your MPN and part of the Microsoft partner network. So and you can build this out, but there's a new one of those as well. So there's lots of correlations going on. I mean, there's lots of doubling up, I've noticed, but not much communication kind of coming out about it as much, maybe because we are more focused on other areas of Microsoft. I mean, we have quite a bit going on at the moment, I would say. It's an interesting one as to why. What else we're adding, or the stuff that we don't even know about just yet.
So there will be on the bottom of the video, there will be a link to the blog that Microsoft announced Workspaces to. And they've kind of made it as a move to bring it in line with a lot of the other portals that are already in existence, like the Office 365 admin portal, things like the Azure portal as well. They're going to have the same look and feel for all of them and retain that familiarity.
Mm.
So it'll be nice to see actually when people are using it, how they're finding it. They do. It's Microsoft. They're going to recommend that as you're in here, go make sure everything's up to date, like your business profile. Go make sure all the user roles are correct as well, and just all the little things like that. Just to make sure that partners are using Partner Center the way it should be. I did notice that documentation on the Docs website is updated to reflect workspaces as well. So whereas you'd normally have a guide of go to Partner Center, click here, here, and here, you've now got a toggle between workspaces and the old format.
Yeah.
So they're doing all the updating to make it as easy as possible as a transition. It just needs people to start using it. What I was interested in, what I found curious was that this started on September the 27th, and the toggle between workspaces and old format Partner Center is going to remain in place until November 15th. So it's quite a quick adoption rate they're expecting.
Well, you know what's going to happen on the 16th of November, don't you? Everyone's going to be phoning us up. What's going on with the Partner Center?
I'll be on holiday.
I was going to say I was going to be on the plane on the way to holiday as well. So
honestly, yeah. So that's going to happen and go. We can't do this or we can't do that. You can see it now. But yeah, it's one of them, and it's just changed. And I think most partners at Microsoft understand that Microsoft like to change things quite quickly.
Yeah.
Cool. Shall we rattle through some community call updates?
Might as well.
I'm going to suggest that John goes first because we've talked over him the whole call so far.
Yes, please. Yes. So I've seen, to be fair, I've seen the new Partner Center. It looks a bit like the Azure portal, but much slower. It will get some getting used to it. But I think at the end of the day, if you have your MPN assigned, you have your user assigned, if you've, as a partner, you've make sure that you're enrolled in the right programs, everything else you can just search it and find it. So, Azure update, community calls, I would say there is nothing new, but I can share my experience of what is new with Azure and what's coming with a lot of partners. So, and I can share some very nice statistics. I always love statistics. So I've noticed the last couple of months that a lot of partners that are MSPs or want to become MSPs are reaching out to us and want to attach other cloud services. So, for example, modern workplace partners will reach out and to the Azure BDMs and ask, how can I migrate some of on-premises workloads to Azure? Again, from my side, I have some partners that would like to know more about Dynamics and how they can offer this to their customers, and also business voice, modern workplace, or security attached. So we have some data that shows why this happens, and this is because the customers, the SMBs, and to be precise, an SMB is a customer, is a company that has 10 to 100 to 200 employees. So there are the small companies, your local GP, your local legal firm, financial firm. It could be a school, it could be a dental practice. So those companies, since the start of COVID, have accelerated the adoption of cloud services and cloud products. So we have some data from IDC that within the 12 months within 12 months, more than 50% of those companies of SMBs with 10 or more employees will have adopted some kind of public cloud infrastructure, and 37.5% of those companies have firm plans to migrate to cloud solutions. So we're talking about a huge number of companies, and those are small companies that do not have IT departments, they do not have the skills, they do not have the capacity to understand the technology. They just want to reap the benefits. They want to have a product, a cloud product that can easily understand and consume. Also, more than 50% of those SMPs have started or increased their managed services consumption since the start of COVID-19. So more than 50% of those companies have reached out to a partner, an IT advisor, and asked, how can we get Teams calling? How can we get a better CRM system that is connected? How can we move to the cloud and get rid of our servers? And we can see it on our side. A lot of partners come asking, how can I start with my first workload? How can I answer to the customer that's asking, I want to move this to Azure, for example. What are the benefits? How can I do a migration discussion? How do I start the pre-sales discussion? And how this migration will look like. So what I would like to point at this point, this time, is that from the FY22 assist, the most important tool that can help those partners engage with discussion without being afraid of maybe a lack of technical capacity or a lack of experience on Azure. I would say the solution assessment team is this funding that can unlock and support those conversations. So this is available to any partner. I think it's minimum 10 VMs or 25 users on virtual desktop, an Azure virtual desktop migration or security, a security assessment. So I've done this with a lot of partners, and what essentially is Microsoft will send you a tool. It's called Block 64. You will install it on-prem, and this will start get a lot of data around the CPU utilization, the RAM utilization, and we'll start to create a dashboard of what is utilized on the on-prem hardware and what this would look like on Azure. So first, you have a very informed dashboard. You can do some data-driven discussions and data-driven migrations and recommendations. So after 4 weeks that this software is running, you'll get a very good idea of what are the workloads on-prem. You can have a discussion with your customer and say, these VMs, these file servers can easily be moved to a modern workplace solution because you're actually not using them as much. You can use SharePoint. You can just put it on Teams, and then these solutions can easily move to Azure, and this is the cost. This is how many hours this will be needed to be on. This is what you will pay more or less. We can use the reserve instances. We can use a hybrid benefit. And this, I would say, unlocks a lot of opportunities that the partners will have. These discussions are live now with their customers, and this can unlock the opportunity and help them move their customer base to Azure with everything they need. So this tool is end-to-end. You will have the dashboard, you'll have the recommendation, but also the solution assessment team will send you a presentation that will be an assessment, so you can compare the total cost of ownership on-prem and on the cloud. You can compare licensing. You can compare, everything that is a cost. And also you have options on lift and shift, right sizing. And at the end, you can also have some recommendations about how to migrate. And if you wish to migrate, you can just click a button and migrate this to Azure. Again, this is a form. This is available to everyone. The assessments are data and infrastructure migration. There's one for cybersecurity, the cybersecurity posture of your on-prem VM, Azure Virtual Desktop, and there is one for modern workplace. I'm sure you are familiar. The SMB model, less than 100 VMs, that usually most of our partners customers have less than 100 VMs. It's self-serve. If it's more than 100 VMs, there is a whole team that is engaged with the whole process. And of course, there's more data, on the presentation on the outcome. That's it from my side.
Sounds like a pretty good opportunity, I think, especially to get the SAS team in to actually assist in that journey. So I know that myself and Nicola, we use the value calculator from a modern workplace point of view, which does something similar. And then if needed, probably the demand response team from Dublin. But I will say as well, John, I'm glad you brought some statistics, because I don't know if Nicola's brought any, but I certainly don't have any this month.
Not got any at all.
I've got a stat because I knew it. I was like, I'm gonna play the modern work game, and I'm gonna stick a stat in there. If
we're just being cool. You see, like we just thought that this month we wouldn't give you a stat every month. So if you want to follow our lead, then you crack on.
Yeah,
I will.
Shall
I go next then?
Yeah, go on then. That's a nice seamless link, isn't it?
Well, okay. I had things in order. I'm going to do it out of order because you guys are hungry for the stat now. I can tell.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, just since we've been talking about incentives and things like that, what business applications have been doing a lot more of is trying to give partners more money to do larger implementations. So it's very similar to how Azure have had it in the past with the POC funding. BizApps has funding for customer projects as well. It's called ESIF. As at the 21st of October is in the future, wrong date. As of the 5th of October, how much money do you think Microsoft have given away for pre-sales, migration, and post-sales activities for BizApps?
Globally or in the UK?
Globally.
10 days. In 10 days.
No. Not 10 days as in like till today. Since the start of the MSFY.
Okay, fair enough.
To the 5th of October this year.
That's what, three months and a bit.
It's just over a quarter, isn't it?
Yep.
$52 million.
52 million. Good God. How big, how deep do you think their pockets are?
I don't know.
I'd say
are stopping the co-op funding now. You do know it, Sean.
130,000.
250,000.
So Nicola is actually closest. They've actually given away $850,000 so far.
Wow.
That's
quite a lot.
The pre-sales element, which is kind of where you get the majority of that, is actually $400,000 that they've given away.
Okay.
So a lot of partners.
That would be the big part, though, isn't it? The pre-sales, because that's all like the technical enablement, and that's really kind of getting it to understand what the solution's all about.
Scoping out things,
yeah. So it is really interesting because Microsoft have released their all the activities that partners can do that makes them eligible for this funding, and it's things like business envisioning workshops, which for most of the Dynamics partners is probably something they do, and they may not call it a business envisioning workshop. It may be called something else that they do, or there may be a slight tweak that they don't do Microsoft-y, but they do in their own way. And a lot of conversations have been going on at the moment to get partners trained on Catalyst, which is Microsoft's way of looking at things. There's a whole host of things at Catalyst, which I'm not going to touch on because it goes quite deep. But if you do things in the Microsoft way, you can unlock a lot of money for you. Last FY, this was still available last FY, by the way. It's not something that's brand new. This was still available, but there was a threshold for what the deal size should be in order to qualify for it. Now, that threshold has been drastically reduced, and I think it's something like $20,000 annually is the requirement for a deal size now, which is relatively low. If you think about it, that's less than $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Just making sure my maths was quick enough then. It's less than $2,000 a month, which is more than possible within Dynamics. But there's a whole host of things in there. It's not just Dynamics based either. So if you're looking at Power BI, for instance, I mean, it technically is a modern work SKU, but if you're looking at Power BI, there are some activities you can do for that as a SKU that will qualify you for funding.
Oh.
So all I'd say is any partners that are working with Dynamics or Power Platform, just reach out, because it's good to have these conversations. Because if you've got customers, for instance, that are sort of balking at the cost of an implementation for Dynamics or Power Platform, this may be a way to reduce the cost to your customers while demonstrating the value. Even if it's something like a small proof of concept, that's potentially possible under this motion. A lot of this has to be done through Microsoft Co-Sell. And if you're not familiar how to do Co-Sell, give us a shout, because we can run through that with you on Partner Center. It unlocks quite a lot of support for you as well. But that's ESIF funding. A couple of other bits I wanted to touch on as well. Something we'll be talking about, I think, next month is the Transform website. And something that actually crosses all clouds. I noticed the other day is the Microsoft Healthcare Cloud. Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare.
Yep.
That is now available as a demonstration on CDX.
Okay.
So if you've got any customers in that industry that you want to demonstrate across all clouds, please go in, have a look at it, explore it. It's a nice demonstration you can show people. If your business is orientated around automation, which Microsoft keeps saying is going to be massive this year, they keep saying about automation. There's actually an RPA partner program, RPA being robotic process automation. So there's a partner program that you can get involved in as well. Very much similar to how there was a Power Apps, or I say was, this still is a Power Apps partner program. Something for you to get involved in, give you access to different updates, and part of a wider community that's specialized in this area. A couple of other cool updates I did see. Power Apps, 3rd year running, it has been named as a leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant.
We love a good Gartner Magic Quadrant, don't we, eh?
Yeah.
We do, especially when it's leader.
Yes.
We don't really shout about it if it doesn't fit into that box, but I mean, how often does that happen?
I've got 5 now and 7 Forrester waves as well.
So I did mention CDX earlier, but there's also some updates on the sales plays as well. So we'll probably touch on it more next month, where we talk about the Transform websites. But sales plays have been updated on the Dynamics Partner website. Take a look, because there's like 20-minute videos per sales play to describe how you would use them with end customers. And it'll go into application specific detail as well. And if you're using that collateral, it'll make it easier for you to work out how it all fits into the ESIF buckets as well, going back to that funding from Microsoft. Something I've seen a lot of people asking for recently are sandbox environments where they can get discounted or free licenses to create their own environment, play around with it, do whatever connections they want to different things, and create their own solution that they want to show off to customers. Microsoft have listened. They have got that available. This is different to CDX environments, because the CDX environments, when you set them up, they've got a 90-day or a year date on them, and then delete, they're all gone, including the data, and you have to reset it up, do all the configuration again. This is different because these are going to be your licenses on your tenants that you can control and do everything you want to them. So they are available. There will be a link on the YouTube video so you can get that. There's a whole host of applications on there that you can use. I haven't actually read the whole list because there's not that many there. But Business Central is one that's asked for an awful lot. That's dated to be this month it goes live. These are all heavily discounted SKUs. When I read it, I'm sure Business Central was listed at $6 per user per month, 5 users purchase that you need.
What is its normal price? It's normally double that, isn't it?
It's like $40.
Oh yeah,
for the Essentials license. So yeah, even with the 5 user minimum purchase, it's heavily discounted.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to play around with Business Central integrated to M365, get a whole Teams environment set up with Business Central, it's the perfect time to do it with something like that.
Perfect.
There you go. I've given you my stats and my updates.
Wow, I do like a good stat, Martyn. I'm not going to lie. That's how it's quite.
Have you gone and found a modern work stat now while I've been talking?
No. I'll leave it with, I'll let you add the glory today. How about that?
Okay then. Okay.
So it looks like we're last but not least, Nicola.
Well, they say the best will last, don't they? Apparently, so
yeah,
that's what I like to think.
So do you want to kick us off for Modern Workplace then?
Yep. Okay. So Windows 11 has now launched. So you may have seen that Windows 11 is now available. So this came out on the 5th of October. Yep. So in terms of, I know Mike's very excited about the whole Windows 11 launch. And I'm sure it'll probably go really well with his nice shiny new Surface that he has as well.
It's actually next to me on charge.
Is it?
I have checked for the update numerous times, but it's still not wanting to come through.
Does it not?
No, not yet. It just says we will let you know when it's ready. So,
what a shame. So we have the so Windows 11 is now available or not available for Mike currently and his new Surface. The other things that we have got to go through is the incentives. So we have 2 incentives that Modern Workplace have released, which are very good in my opinion. How about yourself, Mike? What do you think about them? I
love them. I just wish they would appear in partner centres to actually utilise them.
I agree.
So
maybe you need to look in workspaces.
Potentially, yeah.
Wow.
So to highlight these incentive programs, then there is one which launched 1st of September, which is the Business Voice incentive. Essentially, if you had less than 30 seats of Business Voice within a customer or multiple customers before 1st of September, if you register for the incentive program and take said customer above 30 seats, then you as the partner actually get paid out $500 per customer up to a $10,000 threshold, so 20 customers, which I think is really, really impressive, especially kind of given where voice was and where it's going to. It's evolved quite a lot. And then the other incentive program, which launched 2 weeks ago, 1st of October, literally landed in our inboxes a couple of days ago actually. It was all around business premium, so acquiring those seats. Interestingly, again, Microsoft have actually allowed existing customers, not just net new. So let's say if you've got customers who you've previously sold 50 seats to, because that's the eligibility criteria. So you've sold 50 seats last quarter of Business Premium. You should receive that invite. If not, reach out to us and we can absolutely support in that. But Microsoft are looking at a 5% increase quarter on quarter. So let's say if you've taken you've sold 50 seats previously, you've enrolled within the incentive program, and then you've taken that customer through kind of, increase of 5% each time. Above that 5%, however many seats you get above that qualification, then that's $20 per seat, on top of the 4% rebate, plus the accelerator for business premium, plus if they're a net new customer add, you'd get that accelerator as well. So really, really profitable in that space.
And plus, if you are signed up to the Modern Workplace Accelerator program and you are a developed tier partner, because you get a month free as well for business premium. So you could make this very fruitful for yourself and build up that margin quite nicely. And also that these are all 100% incentives as well. So there's no co-op split in any of these. So the Teams one, you should, if we're going to put a form in the link. So if you do not see the Teams voice one, you can fill a form out and that goes directly right back to Microsoft, and that's a way of getting enrolled. The business premium one should be within your partner center. So it's down to eligible partners that have at least 50 seats. And the scanning process, essentially, so how, in terms of what the growth of that 5% is, that they've taken basically the previous 6 months, looked at the two quarters, kind of averaged out what each quarter would look like. So for instance, if you had 100 seats in one quarter, 100 seats in another quarter, your average would be 100 seats. 5% over that 100 is obviously 105. So anything when you're adding over 105, that's where you'll start receiving the $20 per seat back.
You make it sound so simple, Nicola.
I gotta say, what a beautiful explanation.
Honestly, it took me a while to work it out. It wasn't necessarily written particularly well when it first was released, but we got there eventually, didn't we, Mike?
Yeah, we did. Is there a cap for enrolment deadline on either of these incentive programs?
There is for Business Voice. So both of them are by the end of March. Yeah. Yep. So basically, the reason why this is that Microsoft will look at it. This works on a quarter by quarter basis. So you need to make sure that you are enrolled by the end of March. You cannot, though, retrospectively go back. So when you're enrolled, that's the time of when it starts of the enrollment. So as I say, we'll put the Business Voice one in here. The Business Premium one, just keep an eye on it. Within your partner center, the operations team are looking at how to push it through into partner centers as quickly as we can, because some of these are UK, some of them are global. So it's just a case of the operational size of how they look through. But maybe look in Workspace, it might be in there. You never know.
So brilliant in the incentive updates. The next one is kind of that elephant in the room that we've all heard about. 3 letters we all dread kind of the feedback on is NCE. And I know this partially pulls Martyn in as well, because it's all around new seat-based offers within the catalogue of Microsoft. So essentially, if you're not sure what NCE is, if you look at the current market of today, there's so many different channels and kind of ways you can purchase your license through. Some being the open program, enterprise, CSP, SPLA. There's all these different programs. What Microsoft are trying to look to do, or not look to, because they are, it's launching, it's a thing. They're bringing all of these into one catalogue of offers. So taking you across kind of the breadth motion, should be now known as kind of the CSP moving forwards, self-serve or the direct, web direct, or enterprise motion as well. And through these 3 motions, this is where you as the partner will add your value with that customer signing one single agreement, just to kind of simplify everything. But because they are only having that kind of one catalogue of offers now, some of these policies have to interlink and adapt to each other. So I know one that has been talked about quite often is the cancellation policy, isn't it? So it's but there's some really good things coming out of it as well. So I know some of our partners or customers, could be worldwide. So whereas you've got a multi-geo add-on within enterprise agreements, these are now actually moving into kind of what is now known as kind of the CSP, into the new NCE, Modern Commerce. So yeah, I think it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to what it brings, definitely.
I think it definitely simplifies the whole purchasing experience. I think the bit where it kind of say it aligns with the T's and C's has probably been the sticky point, possibly. It's the bit that everyone's more worried about, I would say. But in terms of having that fixed term, in terms of, with CSP currently, your customer could up sticks and move somewhere else. It's obviously, it stops all of that and gives you that reoccurring revenue on a monthly basis. So in terms of that, I think it will definitely it will help, certainly operationally wise as well, that you've not got day billing as well. So if somebody uses it for a day a month or 2 weeks in a month, it stops that kind of trying to work out, £9.40 divided between, it kind of just keeps it very nice and clean and a bit more slicker. So I know that partners are really happy about things along those lines. And the 3-year commit, obviously, that's going to be announced at some point. We know that it's going to be an option, but as to when that's going to be an option hasn't actually been quite released just yet.
And as of kind of this week, the technical preview has been announced, hasn't it? It's actually launched. So
yesterday,
which is fantastic. And the general availability was postponed to January, and that falls in line with all the promotions that Microsoft are looking to launch through that. We're not quite sure of what those promotions are yet, but all we do know, it will be some type of discount. We're just, there's always changes and updates coming out from these, and I think what we've done, or what our other colleagues within the team have done fantastically, is produce a series of webinars. We do actually have a webinar going live on the 28th, so we'll actually pop that link underneath, because I think it's really important to actually go through and have a look, because the feedback last time was fantastic, especially because we've got kind of boots on the ground, ears, around the table, listening to what's actually going on.
And I think with the NTE, it is a shift in stance. It's a day-by-day update, I would say, at the minute. It just each day there's something new that's coming out. So in terms of what was yesterday's news is very different to what today's news is. So definitely look at the webinar. We are talking to partners. We are talking to Microsoft as well, in terms of, from an Ingram standpoint, back to Microsoft, kind of giving the news in terms of how it's going down with partners and, what that feedback is. And they're listening as well, which is nice. They are listening. So I think in terms of that, but definitely sign up to the webinars. So we've had some really, really good feedback, and we will be doing them on a monthly basis as well. So this will be going through, how do you talk to your customers about it, what the incentive rates are, what those offers are when we know when they're coming through. So
and is there any actions that you'd recommend partners take at the moment, Nicola, if they're listening to this?
So in terms of, obviously you want to be talking to your partners, talking to your customers, essentially. We've got the price rising in March, on the 1st of March. So essentially you really want to kind of lock your customers in prior to that. Now, there's 2 ways. People can either do it at the end of February. However, my opinion, and it's only my opinion, is that I would phase it over January to February. Otherwise, you can kind of be creating yourself a bit of work in January every year, because everyone will be having the same anniversary date. So I would probably blend it between January to March. So getting that lower price, locking that in. The open licensing obviously is finishing the end of the year. So in terms of any on-prem customers, you can move those to the cloud, and just onboard into the new CSP program really before the end of January 2022. So really, in those senses, is this is coming. If you like it or if you don't like it, it's a bit like Marmite to a certain point. I think it's probably the best way to analogize it. Is it's going to be here, it's going to stay. So just embrace it. Hopefully we'll be able to get those incentives out to you, and just get them over before that price increase comes over.
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all sort of solution for NCE, and you're quite right about phasing it. And I think anyone who's got a lot of customers on their books probably wants to work with us to see what approach would work best with their customers, because the other thing to consider is the CSP incentives are ending. Is it October next year?
Yeah, this program that we're in now is the last program, isn't it?
So if you were to renew, just say you were to renew everyone in February, you're only going to get just over 6 months worth of incentives based on that as well. So there's a lot to consider, and it's probably just worth having that conversation.
And I think, we talk about, one size fits all. No one partner is the same as another partner. We deal with so many different partners, have different focuses in different areas or split focuses, So in terms of, as I say, you're absolutely bob on right in terms of when it comes down to that, it's not a one size fits all. So everyone takes the news slightly differently, I suppose, in that sense. One thing I will say is next year, when it comes down to anniversary, then make sure that you will telling your customers in advance about the price rises, so it's not a nasty surprise next year. So there is blogs that you can send out to your customers saying, look, we're going to lock you in now because actually it's going to be the lower price. However, please just be aware and be mindful that there will be a price increase. E5, Microsoft 365 E5 is not actually going up in price, but E3 is, so that's actually narrowing the gap. So so you can talk about actually, is there, if they do have an appetite for more security or they need it for the compliancy area, then you can make that upsell to E5 a little bit better. Also, two other bits in terms of leveraging the audio conferencing. So this used to be available on enterprise grade SKUs, but now it's available across the whole Microsoft 365 stack. So that's down to business standard, etc. So in terms of business premium, so you have that as well. And then just really looking at addressing the risk with the low usage with E3 and E1 customers as well. So my suggestion would be, have a licensing review, see what your customers are using, notify them that you actually are going to lock in a lower price, but next year there will be a higher price. And in that sense, then you're kind of not giving your customers a bit of a fright when it comes down to the requotes next year. So, you can see that you're doing a good thing by your customer, and I'm sure that they'll appreciate that.
Yeah, I think just on the back of that, people talk of price increase, they're quite scared or put off by it. Microsoft haven't increased the price on these bundled SKUs for so many years. They've increased the price of the individual SKUs or the add-ons, but the actual bundles, no. So I think, it was due time to come. It was just a case of when, really, not if. So
I think it's just a case of price increases, which
plus
is more than
add-ons.
Plus you got the feature add-ons, plus NCU.
Yeah.
And then you got Windows 11, then you got Windows 365, then you've got a new partner center. You've got new incentive schemes. Just a lot going on, isn't there?
There's always a lot going on. Always.
Well,
cool. And I think that is it for us this month. So I am hopefully displaying our LinkedIn pictures and profiles. Yep. So if you do want to connect with us, if you do want to ask us any questions, feel free to connect and ask questions. If you've got some topics you think would be worth us covering off on these podcasts, please let us know. We will try and cover them as well. And that's it for this month, guys.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Say bye, everyone.
Next month.
Bye.
Next month.
Bye.